What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another forecast here. This is going to be a very exciting video for those who love the winter uploads because this will be my third winter forecast for 2020-21 here. I know it's been a while since I've had my since I've had one. I've been really focused on the tropics, and obviously with the actual winter storms, I've just kind of been talking about those. But in this video, the day before Halloween, why not just have a winter forecast? So this is going to be my third and updated one. So it is quite different compared to my second one. And I'm going to try to have a fourth one by mid-November, and then try to have up to 6 total winter forecasts before December 21st here. But in this video, we're going to be looking at the precipitation, the temperature outlook, and the overall winter forecast, which will be at the end of the video. But before we get in the video, please subscribe, especially if you want more winter forecasts, as they'll be more frequent as we are near November. Also, be sure to subscribe as well for even fall forecasts, as we are getting closer to fall. Not fall forecast. Winter storm forecast. That's what I meant, not fall forecast. Winter storm forecast, as obviously we are getting to that time of the year where winter storms are becoming more and more likely. But without further ado, let's get in the video. So here's looking now at the precipitation, and as you can tell, we do have a few changes compared to my second one. But we're going to start off. Let's go ahead and start off with the above average precipitation areas, which means you can either see more snow, more rain, more freezing rain, more sleet, just more precipitation in general. It's not really one's going to be more rain and one's going to be more snow. Like if you're in any color green or lime green or dark green, that just means you're going to be seeing on the above average side of precipitation in general. So any type of precipitation throughout the 4-month time period. But let's go start off with the first shade of green, which is kind of more of a lime green. That is slightly above average precipitation. That's going to be for areas of southern Oregon all the way up to upstate New York. So if you're in the lime green, you're going to be seeing slightly above average precipitation. It won't be too noticeable, but maybe it will become noticeable throughout the time period, but it won't be too noticeable. You won't really say, oh, that is slightly above average. It's going to be slightly, so a few inches above average. So let's say your average precipitation is 30 inches throughout winter. That means 35, 36, maybe 37. So it's gonna be if you really try to notice it, you probably notice it, but it's not gonna be like where you just wander off and you just notice it, because it's not gonna stand out that much. But that's gonna include obviously portions of the Midwest, Northeast, and the Ohio Valley, and portions of the plains. And the darker green, that is moderately above average precipitation. So it is kind of a step up to that mark of above average. So you're going to be seeing a bit more precipitation. So maybe 20 inches above average, maybe 15 inches above average. So it's going to be obviously higher than that slightly above average mark there. And that's going to be including 2 regions. One's going to be kind of the Great Lakes region, so including much of the Great Lakes. And then we also have areas like the western United States and the western plains. That's including Nebraska, South Dakota, Montana, Wyoming, Idaho, Oregon, and Washington. You guys can be seeing that decent amount of precipitation. We've already seen this pattern change throughout the past few weeks. We saw with the winter storms, Billy. We saw with Abigail, they came into the Rockies and then went to the Great Lakes. So that's exactly that kind of that pattern change, or that pattern we're going to be seeing throughout winter as well, except obviously it's going to be more towards the south, including Indiana, Ohio, and portions of the Great Lakes, not just Minnesota and Wisconsin. So it's going to be like a similar pattern like we've had the past weeks here, where we've had a lot of precipitation in the Rockies that have moved eastward into the Midwest. So that's why we're going to be seeing just much of the northern United States in general that'll be above average. And then we're looking now at the below average precipitation. So same thing goes for those who are above average. If you're slightly below average, you're going to barely notice the difference. You may not, it really just depends. I may notice it since I'm actually really up to looking at the weather and all that. But for those people who just want to know what it's gonna be like for winter, and then they unsubscribe, or they don't subscribe at all, and they don't care about weather. They just want to see what winter's like. Then they won't notice it. So that's going to be throughout areas of California all the way up to New Jersey. So once again, a coast-to-coast pattern, because it's going to be like split. The United States will be split north to south, not west to east, like it usually is in a El Nino year, La Nina year, or sorry, El Nino or neutral. But obviously this is going to be more of a La Nina year, as it is a really strong La Nina right now, which is going to really increase the probability for a warmer southern United States and even drier United States. But if you're in that light brown, that's or peaches color, then that's slightly below average. So you really won't notice it too much. And then a whole different story in that second shade of brown, that is moderately below average, and that's definitely where you can notice that lack of precipitation throughout portions of the Southwest. There could be some minor droughts, but it won't be too significant. All right, now for the temperatures, let's go and start off with the below average this time. So we do have in that light blue color, that is slightly below average temperatures, and that'll be a bit more different than the precipitation. You actually might notice this a bit more where we have a big cold front, and you're gonna definitely notice that. Obviously, that you can notice a lot more than precipitation, but it's only be like 3 to 5 degrees below average throughout that 4-month time period. Obviously, there will be big cold fronts throughout winter that can bring in well below average temperatures. But overall, in the 4 months, it'll be averaged out to only slightly below average temperatures. Up to the north of that, we do have moderately below average temperatures, and that's very widespread as well, from all the way from Washington up to Michigan. That's going to be including the big region of the Midwest. The Midwest, as you can tell in the past two slides, they're going to get all the action basically. Not only are they going to be seeing moderately above average precipitation, but moderately below average temperatures. So above average precipitation and below average temperatures all matches up equals snow. So yeah, the Midwest is definitely going to get really active, obviously very cold clippers, polar vortexes, and then areas up in the Northwest and the Rockies and Sierras, there we will also be seeing very frequent cold fronts there. Just because you are in a below average temperatures doesn't mean you're not going to see warm fronts. Obviously, the pattern changes a lot. Obviously, the cold front comes in and then the warm front comes right behind it. The thing is, it's just going to be less frequent for warm fronts to occur in those areas. And then for the above average temperatures, you can kind of tell, like I did say, it's going to be kind of split north to south. Much of the southern United States is going to be seeing slightly to moderately above average temperatures. And then we have a little bit of the East Coast as well, and that's going to be following that pattern, like I did say, that pattern we have now, or we've had for the past few weeks, is going to be very similar to the winter, and that's because that La Nina has been extremely strong for the past 2 months. So that November or this October weather has been very similar to what we can expect throughout winter, because it's kind of that La Nina came very, very strong, and it's continuing to get stronger. So that does mean the impacts or the I guess you could say the weather pattern for La Nina do come in earlier, which is why I'm saying it's going to be pretty similar to what we expect throughout winter. Obviously, some minor changes. Obviously, not going to be exactly equal to October to winter, but it's going to be very similar. So if you're in that slightly above average, like I did say, not going to really notice it, maybe 3 to 5 degrees above average throughout the whole time period of winter. But it doesn't mean you're not going to get cold fronts. Obviously, we've had snowstorms in the southeast and La Ninas. It happens. It's just that throughout the year, it'll be more warm than it is cold. But definitely cold fronts will come in these areas quite frequently, just not frequent enough to beat those warm fronts. And then we do have in the southwest the moderately above average temperatures there in that darker orange. That you would definitely notice the temperature difference, and you would definitely see a lack of cold fronts. And then drum rolls, here is my this is my overall outlook, and there it is. As you do see, we do have a few colors that is including several regions that's going to be seeing several different weathers for winter. So definitely be seeing throughout this map a variety of winters, different winters. One very cold, one very warm, one very dry, one very wet. But let's go ahead and start with the southeast. In the southeast region and south central, we do have a dark orange, and that is slightly warm and dry. So It's basically in those areas that are kind of the light orange and the light brown. We're gonna be seeing slightly warmer, slightly drier. Not gonna be too noticeable. It's gonna be very close to being average, if not. But yeah, if you're in that orange, it's not gonna be like, oh, I hate this winter. It's gonna be very warm and dry. Well, it's gonna be slightly. Of course, there's still cold fronts. There's still gonna be rainstorms and snowstorms depending where you are in that orange. Obviously, it's going to be kind of very rare to see snow in these areas in the orange at this point of the year, or for some, obviously. Some areas in the orange do get snow, some areas in the orange don't see snow. But in the pink, we do have the winter battle zone, so that's going to be kind of north of that. That's going to be kind of north of that slightly warm and dry, because in the winter battle zone, it's going to be overall slightly warmer or slightly cooler. It's going to kind of be very close to the average point in those areas in the pink region. Their average does include snow, so that's going to include that winter battle zone. There's definitely great chances for snow, sleet, or freezing rain in these areas throughout the year. So if you're in the pink, doesn't mean if you're in the winter battle zone doesn't guarantee snow. It just means there's a very good chance for either snow, either rain, either freezing rain, or either sleet throughout the year. In the purple, up in the northeastern coast and New England coast, we do have nor'easter snow. So we're going to be seeing the nor'easter pattern throughout the winter. And that's going to kind of decrease a teeny bit with the La Nina, but we're going to be seeing definitely some nor'easter snow still. And we aren't seeing a nor'easter necessarily, but it is kind of a nor'easter pattern with what Zeta is bringing. We are seeing some snow for the New England right now. That isn't really a nor'easter, but it is kind of the similar track of nor'easter, the low pressure off the coast, bringing in really strong winds and then snow for areas in the north of that rain. And the light blue next to the nor'easter snow is going to be rather snowy. So it's not going to be too super duper snowy, but it's also not going to be really not snowy at all. It's not going to be like boring. It's going to be rather snowy. Could be seeing slightly above average snowfall in these areas. So it's going to be a pretty fun winter for those areas throughout the Ohio Valley, portions of and much of the Appalachias, north of Virginia and north of Kentucky. In the really like dark pinkish kind of brown mixed in the Midwest there, we have Heart of Winter. Heart of Winter is going to be including portions of the Midwest, obviously Ohio, Michigan, portions of the Great Lakes, including obviously Lake Michigan, and portions of the southern Midwest all the way up into Illinois, portions of Kentucky, and Missouri. Well, Heart of Winter means it's basically Heart of Winter, or the worst of winter. You're going to be seeing the snowiest and not the coldest necessarily, but definitely the snowiest, which means obviously going to be very active. So if you're in Chicago, we all remember last year a huge bust. Detroit, a huge bust last year. Indianapolis, St. Louis, all those cities that are under the Heart of Winter right now saw a huge bust last year. So this year most likely will make it up. But it is 2020, obviously nothing goes good, so it could be another bust this year. That's just a joke. That's just a joke. I'm not saying that's going to happen, but I'm saying definitely Heart of Winter is likely as of now for those areas. In the Midwest there, and the Dakotas, and portions of Montana, and those areas, in that dark pink, hot pink color, we do have polar vortex, and this is obviously including as well clippers, and really big snowstorms that are going to bring extreme cold. And that an example of a polar vortex is what we saw with Billy, with that massive cold front. I mean, massive, that brought 40 degrees below average, and a massive snowstorm. That's an example what a polar vortex will look like. In the dark blue, for portions of the plains and that general area, we do have cold and snowy. So it's gonna be pretty. It's gonna be slightly to moderately below average temperatures and above average snowfall. So Texas, Oklahoma. I mean, we already saw a sample of that snow. Obviously, it's fall, not winter, but we saw a sample of what I mean by cold and snowy by Billy, by bringing ice and snow for portions of Kansas, Missouri, Iowa, northern Texas, and Oklahoma, and then those portions of eastern Colorado. And then the white, we do have lake effect snow there. And the white and the Great Lakes, we have lake effect snow. It's going to be very active lakes, Michigan, Lake Erie, Lake Huron, those general areas. It's going to be very active lake effect snow, so you're going to be seeing some big snowstorms throughout those shores of the lakes. And the other white region, we do have mountain snow. That's including, obviously, those mountain regions. So I think we all know where those mountains are. Northern New Mexico, north central Arizona, portion of far western New Mexico, portion of central Washington and Oregon, much of Idaho, much of eastern Wyoming and Montana. And that's why we're going to be seeing some active mountain snow. We saw an example already with Billy, Abigail. So we're kind of, like I said, it all adds up. What we're seeing now for the past month is really going to be adding up to what we're going to be seeing in the winter. And then obviously now in the Pacific Northwest, since we're going to be seeing mountain snow in those areas, it's going to be chilly and wet for the areas that are going to be a bit warmer. That's including Utah, Nevada, California, Oregon, and Washington. And then areas in the Southwest can be very warm and dry. When I mean very, I mean it's going to be moderately. So not like those slightly areas. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hope you guys enjoy Halloween tomorrow. I will be doing a forecast tomorrow morning on Halloween. It's going to be a Halloween forecast, so not going to be like a tropical forecast. Not going to be anything too interesting. Just going to be a Halloween forecast. I hope you guys enjoy your day, and bye, guys.